came up with a really great idea, dude.
Yeah?
I'm gonna play both sides.
Why would you tell me that?
Now that we know what cards are used, it's time for us to go over the basics, your deck requirements, how to set up the field to play, and the specific turn order and mechanics that rule the game as you play. We'll be using the cards we used in our examples going forward to help visualize the game, and other cards as needed to help explain the different effects. The Digimon card game is exclusively a 2-player game, the game area broken up into 2 opposing sides for each player to face each other. Each player assembles a 50-card deck and an optional egg deck with a maximum of 5 eggs. Your egg deck holds your level 2 Digimon or Digi-Eggs, and as we get into the turn order, you'll see exactly why they are broken up separately from the rest of your main deck. With your deck, you can only ever have a maximum of 4 of the same number card, be it Digimon, Tamer, or option cards, in your deck, with a few exceptions. And while there are some people out there that would love nothing more than to play nothing but Numemons, no. Please, just no. Once you have assembled your deck, it's time to set up your field. Each player's field is broken up into 6 specific zones: your deck, your trash, the raising or breeding zone, the battle area, your security zone, and last but not least, the memory gauge. Most of this is self-explanatory. The deck zone is where your deck goes, and the trash zone is for your trash cards. But we're going to briefly elaborate on the other 4 areas. The battle area is where both you and your opponent will be playing cards out to affect one another and actively engage in battle. And while your opponent may be able to affect all the other zones depending on the deck they build, they cannot touch the next area on the board, the raising breeding zone. The raising breeding zone is your safe zone, and where exclusively your Digi-Egg card deck reside during the game. In this area, you're able to Digivolve without fear of having your opponent being able to affect them. While in the raising breeding zone, you're unable to attack your opponent or activate your own effects, but so long as you have the memory to do so, there is no limit on how big your monster can get while in the breeding area, outside of the natural level limit. The security zone is essentially your life points. The goal of the game is to attack your opponent directly to win, but so long as there are security cards on the field, both you and your opponents have to remove them first before being able to win the game. And lastly, the memory gauge is where both you and your opponent will keep track of how much memory you have on each turn. More on that later. With the field area out of the way, all that is left to be able to play the game is the turn order of the game. The Digimon TCG is all about timing, and they are broken up into different phases that you can move in and out of as the game progresses. Your general turn order for the game is broken down into 5 main phases that operate in linear fashion. Your start of turn, raising breeding phase, start of main phase, and the end of turn. We'll be going over exactly what each phase looks like here in a few seconds, with the rest of the rules once we go through our example of the turn order, but we have one additional phase we need to discuss called attack phase that falls outside of the main phases. Unlike what we just discussed, the attack phase can occur at any point within those 5 phases as often as you are capable of attacking with your Digimon, depending on the circumstances. Because of this, attacking itself has 4 unique phases of its own that occur within the specific battle: when attacking, counter timing, battle, and then end of battle. These 4 phases become more important when we get into our effects and keywords, but for the time being, keep this in mind as part of our general phasing. Now that we have an understanding of the basics, it's time to put everything to practice and see an actual example of how the game plays out. To start the game, both players will roll a dice to determine who goes first. Once the turn order is determined, each player will shuffle their own decks and have their opponent cut their deck before drawing the first 5 cards of your deck. This will be your play hand, though if you dislike it, you have the opportunity to mulligan the hand once by reshuffling your entire deck, having your opponent cut it and drawing 5 cards again. After mulligan though, you will be forced to play that new hand, so keep that in mind. Once you have your play hand, both players will take the top 5 cards of their deck and will place them face down without looking at them into a layered stack. The top card of the deck becomes the bottom card of the stack, and once both players have their board set up, you will place the memory counter on the number 0 on the memory gauge and you're all set to begin. For the purpose of this example, we will be going first, because winners always go first. And as a rule at the start of the game, the player going first does not draw at the start of your turn. So for the start of our turn, since there's nothing on the board to activate, we will enter into our raising breeding phase. During this phase, you can either hatch a Digi-Egg by flipping over the top card face up, promote a level 3 or higher Digimon from the breeding zone, or do nothing and keep the Digimon Digi-Egg in the breeding zone. Digi-Eggs themselves cannot leave the battle area, and you are only allowed one Digimon in the baby area at any given time. As we don't have a Digi-Egg yet, we're going to hatch our first egg, Koromon. Next would be the start of main phase, and again, since we have nothing to activate, we'll just go straight into the main phase. From here, you could play any card in your hand as you so choose, but as we're at 0 memory, the moment that we give our opponent 1 memory or more, our turn would end. This is your choke point as well as your opponent's, and depending on your actions, you can give your opponent as little or as much memory as the cards in your hand can provide. As we want to start developing our board, we're going to use this Agumon in our hand and Digivolve into our Koromon for 0 memory since it meets Agumon's Digivolution requirements. Every time you Digivolve your Digimon, you draw a card, and because we Digivolve for 0 memory, we've managed to develop a card and draw a card for free. And since it's still our turn, we can still develop our board, so to end things off, we're going to pay 4 memory to play out Tai onto the field. Now, as we arrive at the end of turn phase, any last lingering effects are processed, and then our opponent can now begin his turn at 4 memory. Now the game begins in earnest, and with it being the start of our opponent's turn, they'll proceed to draw a card at the start of turn. They'll enter into the breeding raising stage where they'll hatch their own Koromon as well. Start of main, no effects activate since there's nothing on the board, and they'll immediately transition into their main phase. They'll Digivolve their own card, Agumon, for 0 memory to draw a card, and then they'll pay 3 memory to play another Agumon onto the field. And to end their turn, they're going to be playing out their own Tai to put us at 3 memory. End of turn occurs, and since there is nothing to activate, it goes back to our turn. And just like that, we've experienced our first full interaction of the turn order. Pretty simple when we get down to the gist of things, right? There is a few last things we need to talk about before we get into our effect descriptions, so we're going to continue like we would normally at the start of our turn. We'll draw for our start of turn. For the breeding raising phase, we will promote our Agumon to the battlefield, and then we'll enter into our start of main phase. And since there are no effects to activate, we'll just transition right into main phase. The last mechanic we need to talk about is suspending, and this is an action used to both activate specific effects a Digimon may have, or to declare an attack. Suspending is the act of putting your top face Digimon card on its side to signify the use of its action. Since we don't have any other effects than attacking right now, we're simulating this for an attack. When your Digimon is suspended, they are unable to unsuspend until the start of your turn. When attacking with a Digimon, you may declare a target at your opponent's security, your opponent directly if they have no security cards, or a suspended Digimon. You're probably asking yourself now, why didn't my opponent attack me with his Agumon he has on the field? Digimon that are immediately played on the battlefield cannot attack until their next turn. They can still suspend and activate other effects, but to be able to attack, with some exceptions, they have to wait until their next of turn. As our Agumon was played last turn and is able to attack, let's simulate what an attack into security would look like. As we initiate the attack, we would activate any effects that might occur during our attack, in which case there are none, and then we will enter counter timing. As our opponent's Agumon has no effects during our counter timing phase to interrupt our attack, we will enter into the battle phase and begin our battle with our opponent's security. Your Digimon by default can do 1 security check, so when our Agumon swings into the security, your opponent will reveal the top card of their security, and one of 2 scenarios will happen. If a Digimon is revealed, your Digimon will battle them, and if their DP is lower than the Digimon revealed, they will be deleted in the process. If your Digimon reveals a Tamer card or Option card, they will survive the check, but any of security effects that those cards may have will activate since they were revealed in security. So looking back at our Tamer and Option cards, for example, Tai, when checked from security, would be able to play itself onto the battlefield without paying the cost, and Gaia Force would allow it to activate its main effect without paying the memory cost. No matter what happens, by attacking your opponent's security, you're still doing damage to them, but what exactly you might be revealing in the process is at the luck of the cards and can make or break a game. So there's always some risk in attacking your opponent, as well as a chance for a comeback depending on what's revealed. With that being said, we've gone all over all the basic rules and mechanics of the game. And now we have the basics in mind, it's time for us to get into the real meat of things with our next section, keywords.